You'll have the three of us tonight. All three. That's not a request. The words hung in the air of the Mayfair penthouse like a death sentence. Sienna's hands trembled. Her throat closed. Three men stood before her, identical in their devastating beauty, united in their claim on her body. This was her wedding night. But nothing about this was normal. But how does a virgin from South London end up married to three Korean crime lords in one night? The answer started with blood, and a debt she never owed. But here's what nobody told her. The three brothers weren't just sharing her for pleasure. They were testing her, competing for her. And only one would ultimately claim her as his true wife. Let's rewind 48 hours. Sienna Clark was nobody special. 22, barista at a Shoreditch cafe. Studying English Lit at Queen Mary University part-time. She lived in a cramped Brixton flat. Survived on instant noodles. Her biggest worry was making rent. Then, the envelope arrived. Blood-stained. Hand-delivered by a man in a black suit who vanished into the February rain. Inside was a photograph. Her younger brother Marcus. Bound to a chair. Face bruised. Eyes terrified. Written across the bottom in elegant script, 48 hours. Or he dies. The wax seal showed 3 interlocking circles. The symbol of the Chonsa Syndicate, the most feared Korean crime family in Britain. Marcus owed them £300,000. Gambling debts. 6 months of running. 6 months of lies. Sienna had £72 in her account. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Her baby brother was going to die. But here's where it gets weird. 6 hours later, a second envelope arrived. No blood this time. Just a business card. An address in Knightsbridge. And one typed line, "There is another way to settle the debt. Come alone. Tonight. 9 p.m. This wasn't a rescue. It was a transaction, and she was the payment. That night, Sienna stood outside a Georgian townhouse worth millions. Her only decent dress felt like a costume. A Korean woman answered. Mid-50s. Eyes like a hawk. Miss Clark? Sienna nodded. Her voice had disappeared. They're waiting. The interior was nothing like she expected. No cold concrete. No industrial crime lord aesthetic. Warm woods. Soft lighting. Art that probably cost more than her life. She was led upstairs. Through corridors smelling of sandalwood. Past doors she'd never open. They stopped at a study. The woman knocked twice. Then left. Come in. The voice from inside was deep. Accented. Absolutely certain she would obey. Sienna pushed open the door. 3 men stood waiting. And oh God. They were beautiful, devastatingly, dangerously beautiful. All Korean. Early 30s. Tall. Built like they owned the world because they did. But here's the unbelievable part. They were triplets. Identical triplets. Same sharp cheekbones. Same dark eyes. Same powerful build. Yet somehow, even from across the room, she could tell them apart. The one in the center stepped forward first. I'm Kang Do-hyun, he said. Perfect British accent. Expensive boarding school polish. Head of this family. His presence was different from the others. More commanding. More cold. He gestured left. My brother, Minho. Born 2 minutes after me. Minho was leaner. Longer hair falling into sharp eyes. He smiled like he knew every secret you'd ever kept. His energy was playful. Dangerous. Like a cat with a mouse. And my youngest brother, Taejun. The biggest of the 3. Built like a boxer. But his eyes were soft. Almost sad. He didn't smile. Just watched her with an intensity that made her shiver. Sit, Do-hyun commanded. She sat. Because what else could she do? Your brother owes us money he doesn't have, Do-hyun said, circling her chair like a shark. £300,000. He gambled at our establishments in New Malden. Borrowed at interest rates he agreed to. He's been avoiding us for 6 months. We don't like being avoided. I'll pay it back, Sienna said. Her voice sounded braver than she felt. I'll get a loan. I'll work. You'll work for 60 years and still not have enough. Minho's voice was smooth, like expensive whiskey. Let's not waste time with fairy tales. Then what do you want? The three men exchanged a look. Something passed between them. Something that made her skin prickle with fear. Do-hyun crouched in front of her chair. Eye level now. Up close, he was even more terrifying. And more beautiful. We want you. Her heart stopped. What? A bride, Taejin said gently. For the three of us. The room tilted. The floor disappeared. That's not even legal, she whispered. Legally, you'll marry Do-hyun first. Minho explained, moving closer. But in reality, in our world, in our home, you belong to all three. For now. That last part made her look up sharply. What do you mean, for now? Do-hyun's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. In our family tradition, when triplets compete for the same woman, she spends time with all three, gets to know us, understand us, and then she chooses. Chooses? Her voice was barely a whisper. Which one of us she'll truly marry? Taejin said softly. Which one she'll spend her life with? But that comes later. Minho added, his eyes glinting. First, you'll have all three of us. Tonight. Tomorrow. For as long as it takes until your heart knows which of us it truly wants. This is insane, Sienna breathed. Perhaps, Do-hyun said, standing. His eyes traveled over her. She felt naked. But we're also the only thing between your brother and a very painful death. The debt disappears. Your brother goes free. And you. He paused. You live here. With us. Until you choose. And if I say no. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Do-hyun's face didn't change. But something in his eyes did. Something cold and final. Then you leave. And in 48 hours, we send your brother back to you. In pieces. She was going to be sick. Why me? Her voice cracked. You could have anyone. You're obviously rich. Powerful. You could buy someone willing. We don't want willing, Minho said softly. We want you. From the moment Do-hyun saw your photograph in Marcus's wallet. The moment he learned about you. We fought over you, Taejun admitted, his voice rough. For the first time in our lives, all three of us wanted the same woman. So, we agreed to the old way. The traditional way. Do-hyun said. You'll experience all three of us. And then you'll choose which brother wins your heart. We've been watching you. Minho added. His gentle voice made it worse. 3 months. The way you help the homeless man outside your cafe. The way you volunteer in Peckham on your day off. You're good. Pure. Everything our world isn't. And we all want you to stay that way, Do-hyun said. Under our protection. In our home. In our bed. The last 3 words hung in the air like a threat and a promise. Sienna's hands were ice. I'm a virgin. The confession burst out before she could stop it. Embarrassment flooded her face. But she needed them to know. Needed them to understand she couldn't. She didn't know how to. All 3 men went completely still. It was Minho who smiled first. Slow. Dangerous. Predatory. We know. Even better, Do-hyun said quietly. His eyes darkened with something she couldn't name. 3 brothers. 1 innocent woman. This will be very interesting. Taejun's jaw clenched. We'll be gentle. All of us. You have my word. You have until tomorrow night to decide, Do-hyun said. But know this, Sienna. If you agree, there's no going back. You'll be ours. All 3 of ours. Until you choose which one you want forever. No half measures. No regrets. No escape. They gave her a guest room. Bigger than her entire Brixton flat. 4-poster bed. Windows overlooking a private garden hidden in central London. They brought food she couldn't eat. Clothes she didn't ask for. And through it all, Marcus's terrified face haunted her. She didn't sleep. She paced. She cried into expensive pillows. She looked up everything about the Cheonsa syndicate on her phone. What she found made her blood run cold. Drug trafficking. Illegal gambling. Protection rackets. Murders that were never solved. But also weird things. Massive anonymous donations to children's hospitals. Community centers in New Malden funded by anonymous benefactors. A pattern of brutality toward enemies. And unexpected mercy toward innocents. They were monsters, but they were complicated monsters. And they were triplets competing for her. This was unbelievable. At 8 a.m., someone knocked. Taejin entered with a breakfast tray. You should eat. Whatever you decide. Why are you doing this? She asked. Really? Why would three brothers fight over one woman? He sat by the window, looked out at the frost-covered garden. Because, for the first time in 33 years, we disagreed on something that matters. Do-hyun saw your picture first, decided he wanted you, but then Minho and I saw you. At your cafe in Shoreditch. You smiled at a child. You were so kind. And we wanted you too. Desperately. His eyes met hers. Our grandfather had the same situation. 3 sons who wanted the same woman. She chose the middle son. Not the heir, not the strongest. Just the one whose heart matched hers. That became our family tradition. When brothers compete, the woman chooses. If I do this, she whispered. If I agree, what happens to me? You'll live here. Experience life with each of us. See who we really are. Do-hyun will try to win you with his power and protection. Minho will try to charm you with his wit and passion. And I. He paused. His jaw worked. I'll just try to make you happy. That's all I want. You'll want for nothing. You'll be protected. Always. And in return. His eyes were unbearably sad. In return, you'll eventually break 2 hearts. Because only one of us gets to keep you. 72 hours later, Sienna stood in a Westminster registry office. Small ceremony. Witnesses she didn't know. A registrar clearly paid to ask no questions. She wore cream silk that cost more than her yearly salary. Only Do-hyun stood beside her for the legal ceremony. His hand warm over hers. This is just paperwork, he murmured as they signed. The real decision comes later. When you choose which of us you truly want. They signed papers that bound her to him legally. But not emotionally, not yet. But afterward, in the car back to Knightsbridge, all 3 were there. Minho sat beside her in back. His thigh pressed against hers. Taejin kept turning from the front seat to look at her. And Do-hyun drove. His eyes met hers in the rearview mirror with burning intensity. Your brother is free, Do-hyun said as they pulled up to the townhouse. His debt is cleared. We've also paid off his student loans. Secured him a job in Manchester. Far from London. Far from us. Relief flooded through her. She nearly sobbed. Thank you. Don't thank us yet. Minho said softly, helping her from the car. The night is just beginning. And so is the competition. The house was quiet. Staff dismissed, just the 4 of them. They led her upstairs. Not to the guest room. To the master suite. The room was enormous, dominated by a bed that could fit 5 people. Low lights. Classical music playing softly. Sienna stood in the middle of the room, trembling. We're not going to hurt you, Taejin said. Suddenly in front of her, large hands gentle on her shoulders. Never. Do you understand? She nodded. Couldn't speak. But we are going to have you, Do-hyun said from behind. His breath on her neck. Tonight. All 3 of us. So, you can begin to understand what each of us offers. I don't know how this works, she whispered. You don't have to, Minho said. On her other side now. The 3 of them surrounding her. A circle that felt like both cage and shelter. You just have to feel. Experience. And eventually, your heart will know. Can you do that? She looked at each of them. Do-hyun, with his cold authority. Minho, with his dangerous smile. Taejin, with his gentle sadness. They were criminals. Essentially, her captors. This was insane. But they'd saved her brother. Been nothing but careful with her. And something deep in her body was waking up, responding to their nearness. Yes, she breathed. What happened next was a blur of sensations she couldn't understand. Taejin kissed her first. Mouth soft. Patient. Teaching her without words how to open for him. His kiss was gentle. Safe. Like coming home. When he pulled back, his eyes searched hers. Remember this. He whispered. Remember how I make you feel. Then, Minho claimed her mouth. His kiss was completely different. Playful. teasing, his tongue dancing with hers until she gasped and clutched his shoulders. I can make you laugh and scream, he murmured against her lips. Every single day. And then Do-hyun turned her face to his. His kiss was possession. Pure and simple, demanding, consuming, taking everything she had and making her crave more. When he finally released her, she was breathless and dizzy. I can give you the world, he said simply, everything you've ever wanted. They undressed her together, taking turns, each touch a promise, each caress a plea. Taejun was gentle, his large body careful with hers, making her feel cherished and safe. Minho was playful, finding places on her body she didn't know could feel pleasure, making her gasp and arch and forget her own name. And Do-hyun. When it was finally his turn, when he positioned himself between her thighs and looked down at her with fierce intensity. You're mine tonight, he said. Tomorrow you might choose someone else. But tonight, you're mine. Pain came first, sharp and bright. But his mouth was on hers, swallowing her cry. Minho stroked her hair. Taejun held her hand. Somehow, the pain transformed, built into something else, something that made her shatter into pieces in their arms. Later, much later, she lay in that enormous bed, all three around her, each one touching her, claiming her, marking her as theirs. How do I choose? She whispered into the darkness. How do I choose between you? You don't, Do-hyun said quietly. Not yet. First, you learn who we are. Give us 6 months, Minho added. 6 months to win your heart. And then you'll know, Taejun finished. Your heart will tell you which of us you truly want. The next 6 months were the strangest of Sienna's life. Living with 3 men who were competing for her heart. Each brother had his own approach, his own strategy. Do-hyun was traditional, powerful. He showered her with expensive gifts. A new wardrobe from Harrods, jewelry that sparkled like stars. He took her to exclusive restaurants in Mayfair, introduced her to powerful people. I can give you security, he told her one night at a rooftop bar overlooking the Thames. I'm the head of this family. If you choose me, you'll want for nothing. Ever. He re-enrolled her at Queen Mary, paid for everything, even hired a tutor. Finish your degree, he said. I want you educated, strong, a woman worthy of standing beside me. His touches were possessive, demanding. When he made love to her, it felt like conquest, like he was claiming her body and soul. But there was tenderness too, hidden beneath the ice. The way he checked on her every night before bed. The way he stood between her and any potential threat. Minho was completely different. He made her laugh. He took her to comedy shows in Camden, underground music venues in Dalston, places Do-hyun would never go, places that felt real and alive. I can give you joy, he said, pulling her into his arms at a street festival in Brixton. Every single day. Life with me will never be boring. He taught her to cook Korean food. They spent afternoons in the kitchen, flour in their hair, laughing until they cried. His touches were playful, teasing. When he made love to her, it felt like dancing, like they were partners in some beautiful, sensual game. But there was depth too, hidden beneath the charm. The way he held her when she cried about an exam. The way he listened to her dreams and actually remembered them. Taejun was the quietest, but somehow the most present. He didn't take her to fancy restaurants or wild parties. He took her to the community center in New Malden, where he volunteered. Showed her the programs they funded, the families they helped. I can give you purpose, he said softly, watching her read to Korean children learning English. Something worth waking up for. Life with me won't be flashy, but it will matter. He asked her opinions on everything, valued her thoughts, made her feel like her mind was just as important as her body. His touches were gentle, reverent. When he made love to her, it felt like worship, like she was precious and rare and infinitely valuable. But there was strength too, hidden beneath the softness. The way he protected her without making her feel weak. The way he stood up to his brothers when they pushed too hard. Sienna was falling in love with all 3 of them. and it was tearing her apart. But here's what she didn't know. The brothers weren't just trying to win her heart. They were testing her, watching how she responded to different challenges. The first test came 3 months in. Sienna was at the university library when 3 men approached. Korean men. Young, cocky. 2 bright eyes. "You're Kang Do-hyun's little bride," one said, sitting uninvited. "Pretty. I see why they're keeping you locked up." Fear spiked through her. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you don't." He leaned closer. "Tell your husbands the Park family doesn't forget. Tell them their days running New Malden are numbered." They left before she could respond. She called Do-hyun immediately, hands shaking. He answered on the first ring. "What's wrong?" She told him. The line went silent. Then, "Stay where you are. I'm sending someone." But it wasn't Do-hyun who arrived. It was all 3 brothers. They came together, moving through the library like a storm. Do-hyun reached her first. His hands cupped her face. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you?" "No, I'm fine, I just..." "Good." His eyes were ice. "Go home with Taejin. Minho and I will handle this." "Handle what? What are you going to do?" "What we should have done months ago," Minho said, his playful mask on. "Send a message." "No." She grabbed Do-hyun's arm. "Please, don't hurt anyone because of me." The 3 brothers exchanged a look. This was a test. They were watching how she responded to their violence. Do-hyun's eyes softened slightly. "You're too kind, Sienna. That's going to get you hurt in our world." "Maybe," she said quietly, "but I don't want to be the reason for more violence." "Please." Taejin stepped forward, put his arm around her shoulders. "We'll handle it peacefully. I promise." Do-hyun nodded slowly. "All right. For you." Later that night, Minho told her the truth. That was a test, he admitted, lying beside her in bed. "We needed to know if you could handle our world. If you would run scared. Or if you'd be strong enough to stay." "You're testing me." Anger flared. "This whole time." "Not the whole time," he said gently. "But sometimes. We need to know who you really are. Who you'll be when things get hard." The second test came a month later. A woman appeared at the townhouse. Beautiful. Korean. Crying. She claimed to be Do-hyun's ex-girlfriend. Said she was pregnant with his child. Sienna's world shattered. She confronted Do-hyun in his office. "Is it true?" He looked up from his desk. His expression unreadable. "What do you think?" "I think I deserve the truth." "Then look at me," he said quietly. "Really look at me, and tell me what you see." She stared into his eyes. Those cold, dark eyes that sometimes softened just for her. And she realized, it's a lie. "You wouldn't do that." His rare smile appeared. "Very good. You're learning to trust your instincts." Another test. Her voice shook. "You paid a woman to lie to me? I needed to know if you'd believe the worst of me. Or if you'd fight for us." "You fought for us," Taejin said from the doorway. "That matters." The third test was the hardest. 5 months in, the brothers staged a fight. A terrible, violent fight. Over her. Right in front of her. Do-hyun accused Minho of trying to seduce her away from him. Minho accused Do-hyun of using his power to manipulate her choice. Taejin tried to intervene. Ended up with a bloody nose. Sienna screamed at them to stop. Begged them, cried. Finally, she shouted, "If this is what loving me does to you, then I don't want any of it. I'll leave. Right now. I'll walk away, and you can go back to being brothers instead of enemies." The room went silent. All 3 brothers looked at her. Then, at each other. And slowly, simultaneously, they smiled. "She'd give up everything to save us," Do-hyun said softly. "She'd sacrifice her own happiness for ours," Minho added. "She loves all 3 of us," Taejin finished. "Equally, truly." Sienna stood there, shaking. "What?" "Another test," Do-hyun said, walking toward her. "The final one. We needed to know if you were just attracted to us. Or if you actually loved us." "You bastards," she whispered. Tears streaming down her face. "You absolute bastards." But she didn't leave. She stayed. Because despite everything, she did love them. All three of them. Impossibly, painfully. 6 months ended. The time had come to choose. The brothers sat her down in the library where they'd first met. It's time, Do-hyun said quietly. You've lived with us. Experienced all three of us. Now you must choose which brother you'll truly marry. Which one gets to keep you forever? Sienna looked at each of them. Her heart breaking. How can I choose? I love all three of you. You have to, Minho said gently. That was always the agreement. In our family tradition, only one brother can truly claim you, Taejin added. The other two must step aside. She stood up, paced the room, tears streaming down her face. Do-hyun, she said finally, you gave me security, power, protection. You made me feel safe in a dangerous world. His eyes lit up, but she wasn't finished. Minho, you gave me laughter, joy. You made me feel alive and free. He smiled, but she still wasn't finished. Taejin, you gave me purpose, kindness. You made me feel like I mattered beyond just being beautiful. She took a deep breath. But if I must choose, if I can only have one of you. The room held its breath. I choose Do-hyun. Silence. Heavy and absolute. Minho's face went carefully blank. Taejin looked away, his jaw clenched. And Do-hyun. Do-hyun stood up slowly, walked to her, cupped her face. Why? He asked quietly. Tell me why. Because you're the head of this family, she said, her voice shaking. Because your world is the most dangerous. And you need someone beside you who understands that, who can handle it. Because when I think about my future, about having children, about building something that lasts, I see you. I choose you. Do-hyun kissed her then, deep and possessive and final. When he pulled back, his eyes were fierce. You're mine. Finally, truly mine. Minho stood up, walked to her, kissed her forehead. Be happy, Sienna. That's all I ever wanted. His voice broke on the last word, but he smiled and left the room. Taejun was next. He held her face gently. I knew from the beginning it would be him. He's the strongest, the one who can protect you best. But thank you for 6 months of feeling like I had a chance. He kissed her cheek and followed his brother out, leaving Sienna alone with Do-hyun, the man she'd chosen, the man who'd won. 3 months later, everything changed. Do-hyun took her to Seoul, to meet his family, his mother, his grandmother, and to have a real Korean wedding, the kind that mattered. The ceremony was elaborate, traditional, held at an exclusive venue in Gangnam. Hundreds of guests, all watching as Sienna wore a hanbok so beautiful it took her breath away. Deep red silk with gold embroidery, a headdress that made her feel like a queen. Do-hyun wore traditional garb too. He looked like a prince, cold and powerful and hers. The ceremony was in Korean. She didn't understand most of it, but she understood the important parts. The bowing, the wine, the vows. When it was over, when they were officially married in the eyes of his family and their world, Do-hyun's grandmother approached her, the matriarch of the Kang family, tiny, ancient, with eyes that missed nothing. She spoke in Korean. Do-hyun translated. She says you made the right choice, that you chose with your head as well as your heart. She says you'll be a good wife to me, a strong mother to our children. The old woman smiled, said something else. Do-hyun's expression shifted, became uncertain. What? Sienna asked. What did she say? She said, in her time, when a woman chose one brother, the other two still remained close. That the family stayed together, united. She's giving us permission to continue as we were, if that's what we want. Sienna's heart stopped. What? In Korea, in our family's history, some arrangements were flexible. Do-hyun said carefully. Legally, you're my wife. But if you wanted, if all of us wanted. He didn't finish. Didn't need to. Sienna looked across the reception hall. Minho and Taejin stood together, watching her. They'd been distant the past 3 months. Respectful, giving her and Do-hyun's face. But the longing in their eyes was unmistakable. Do you want that? She whispered to Do-hyun. Would you share me, even though I chose you? His jaw clenched. I won. You're mine. I should say no. But I've watched you these past 3 months. You smile less without them. You miss Minho's laughter, Taejun's gentleness. And I. He paused. I miss my brothers. Miss the bond we had. So, if you wanted to return to how things were, with you as my wife legally but available to all 3 of us, I would allow it. Sienna crossed the reception hall. Minho and Taejun watched her approach. I chose Do-hyun, she said quietly. And I don't regret it. He's my husband. Legally. Forever. Both brothers nodded, pain in their eyes. But I love you too, she continued. Both of you. And I've missed you desperately. If you're willing, if Do-hyun allows it, I want to go back to how things were. All 3 of you. Me. A family. Minho's eyes widened. You mean? I mean, I choose Do-hyun as my husband, but I choose all 3 of you as my family. Is that allowed? Taejun asked, his voice rough. Can we do that? According to Do-hyun's grandmother, yes, she said. In your family tradition, we can. The 3 brothers looked at each other, some silent communication passing between them. Then Do-hyun stepped forward, took her hand. Then it settled. You're my wife, but you're our woman. Legally, you're Mrs. Kang Do-hyun. But in reality, in our home, you belong to all 3 of us. They returned to London different, united in a new way. Sienna wore Do-hyun's ring, bore his name, but she loved all 3 brothers. And they accepted it, made peace with it. Do-hyun had won the competition, but he'd won by being generous enough to share. The house in Knightsbridge became a true home, all 4 of them, together. Do-hyun was her husband, the one she'd stand beside in public, the one she'd bear children with first. But Minho and Taejun were still hers too, still part of her life, her heart, her bed. They'd found a way to make the impossible work. A year later, Sienna stood in the same Surrey garden where they'd held their English reception, a baby boy in her arms. Do-hyun's son, with his father's dark eyes and serious expression. He looks like you, Minho said, coming up beside her, his arm around her waist. He's perfect, Taejun added from her other side. Do-hyun stood apart, watching his wife and brothers with his child. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Possessiveness. Jealousy. But then it softened. Became acceptance. He'd won. She was his wife. This was his son. But his brothers were still his brothers. And she loved all 3 of them. That was enough. Sienna looked up at the 3 men who'd changed her life. The 3 identical faces that she could now read like books. Do-hyun's cold strength. Minho's warm charm. Taejun's gentle kindness. Thank you, she whispered, for choosing me, for letting me choose, for making this work. Thank you for loving all 3 of us, Do-hyun said quietly. Even though you could have walked away. I'd never walk away, she said. This is my family. You're my family. All 3 of you, forever. 5 years later, the house in Knightsbridge was chaos. 3 children running through the halls. 2 boys and a girl. All with Do-hyun's dark hair and Sienna's warm eyes. Sienna had finished her degree, published her dissertation, taught part-time at King's College. She helped run the legitimate side of the family business. And she loved 3 men who loved her back. In public, she was Mrs. Kang Do-hyun, wife of the head of the Cheonsa syndicate. But at home, behind closed doors, she was simply theirs. All 3 of them, equally, completely. You're thinking too hard, Minho said, coming up behind her in the garden, his arms wrapped around her waist. Just remembering, she said softly, that first night, when you told me I'd have all 3 of you. Terrifying, wasn't it? Taejun added, joining them with their daughter on his hip. Terrifying, she agreed, but also the beginning of everything. Do-hyun appeared in the doorway, still in his suit from a business meeting in Canary Wharf, still cold and commanding to the rest of the world. But when he looked at her, at their children, at his brothers. His eyes softened. "Dinner's ready," he said. "Come inside." It was such a simple moment. Such a normal family scene. But there was nothing normal about them. And that was perfect. But here's what Sienna never told them. The real reason she chose Do-hyun that day. It wasn't just about his strength or his protection or his position as head of the family. It was because she knew something about the brothers they didn't realize themselves. She knew that Do-hyun was the only one who could handle sharing. If she'd chosen Minho, his possessive playfulness would have eventually turned dark. He would have resented his brother's presence. If she'd chosen Taejun, his gentle nature would have been crushed by the arrangement. He would have suffered in silence. But Do-hyun? Do-hyun was strong enough to claim her publicly while sharing her privately. He was secure enough in himself to allow his brothers close. He was the only one who could have made this impossible situation work. She'd chosen with her head and her heart. Exactly as his grandmother said. And it had given her everything. That night, after the children were asleep, after Sienna had gone to bed, the three brothers sat in Do-hyun's study, whiskey in hand, the way they used to before she came into their lives. "Do you regret it?" Do-hyun asked his brothers. "Agreeing to this arrangement?" "Never," Minho said immediately. "I get to see her smile every day. That's enough. I get to watch our children grow." Taejun added, "Even if they're not mine biologically, they're still ours." "I won the competition," Do-hyun said quietly. "But some days, I wonder if you two didn't win too. You got the legal claim, but we all got her love." Minho smiled. "We're triplets. We've shared everything our whole lives. Why should the woman we love be any different?" "Because society says," Do-hyun started. "Society can go to hell," Taejun interrupted. Rare profanity from the gentle brother. "We make our own rules. We always have." Do-hyun raised his glass. "To Sienna, the woman who loved us all enough to make the impossible possible." His brothers raised their glasses too. To Sienna. They drank. United. Brothers. Family. But peace never lasted long in their world. 6 months later, a letter arrived. Sealed with the Park family symbol. The same family that had threatened Sienna years ago at the university. Do-hyun opened it in his study, his brothers watching. The letter was simple, direct, threatening. "We know about your arrangement. Your wife, who sleeps with all three brothers. What would British society think? What would your business partners think? Pay us £2 million. Or, we expose everything." Blackmail. Pure and simple. Minho's jaw clenched. "They're threatening our family. They're threatening Sienna's reputation." Taejun added, his gentle nature hardening to steel. "The children's reputation." Do-hyun set the letter down carefully. His face was ice. "We don't negotiate with the Parks. We never have." "So, what do we do?" Minho asked. "We tell Sienna the truth," Do-hyun said. "All of it. She deserves to know what's coming." They found her in the library, reading to their youngest son. When she saw their faces, she knew immediately. What's wrong? They told her everything. The blackmail. The threat of exposure. "They could ruin us," Minho said. "Destroy your reputation. Make it impossible for you to teach. Make our children targets at school," Taejun added. "Or," Do-hyun said quietly, "I could send you away. You and the children. To Korea, or somewhere safe. And we could handle this the way we handle all threats." Sienna stood up. Set the book down carefully. "No." "No to which part?" Do-hyun asked. "No to all of it," she said firmly. "I'm not running. And you're not paying them." "Sienna, they could." "Let them." She interrupted. "Let them tell the world. I don't care anymore." The three brothers stared at her. "I've spent 6 years hiding what we are," she continued. "Pretending in public. Being careful. But I'm tired of hiding. I love 3 men. All 3 of you. And I'm not ashamed of that. If the world wants to judge us, let them judge. We know what we have. We know it's real." "You're willing to risk everything?" Minho asked softly. "Your teaching position? Your reputation? For us?" "Yes," she said simply. "For us. For our family. for this beautiful, impossible thing we've built. I choose us. Publicly. Completely. Let the world know. Do-hyun crossed the room in 3 strides, pulled her into his arms. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Taejun smiled. She's braver than all 3 of us combined. Always has been, Minho agreed. The next day, they held a press conference. Completely unprecedented. The head of the Chonza syndicate, calling reporters to their Knightsbridge home. The legitimate reporters, not the tabloid trash. BBC, The Guardian, the Financial Times. Do-hyun stood at a podium in their formal sitting room, Sienna beside him, Minho and Taejun flanking them. I'm here to address rumors about my family, Do-hyun began, his voice steady, commanding. Rumors that are true. A murmur went through the assembled reporters. My wife, Sienna, loves 3 men, myself and my 2 brothers. We live together, raise our children together, build our lives together. This is not a scandal. This is our family, and we're no longer hiding it. The questions came fast. Sharp, some cruel. Isn't this illegal? Legally, Sienna is married only to me, Do-hyun explained. But emotionally, spiritually, she belongs to all 3 of us. What about your children? Isn't this confusing for them? Sienna stepped forward, her voice clear. Our children have 3 fathers who love them. How is that confusing? They're surrounded by love and support and protection. They're lucky. But what will people think? People will think whatever they want, Sienna said. We can't control that. We can only live our truth. And our truth is that love doesn't fit into neat little boxes. Sometimes it's messy, complicated, unconventional, but it's real, and it's ours. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Tabloids ran wild. Korean crime lord's wife sleeps with 3 men. Conservative groups called for investigations, called them immoral. Sienna was fired from King's College, the university, citing moral standards. Some of their business partners cut ties, refused to work with them anymore. Their children's private school in Chelsea called, suggested they might be more comfortable elsewhere. It was ugly, painful, exactly what they'd feared. But something else happened too. Something unexpected. Support came flooding in, from the most unlikely places. Young women on social media, calling Sienna a hero, saying she was living authentically. Progressive activists, defending their right to love however they wanted. Other Korean families in New Malden, standing with them, saying family was family, regardless of form. A rival university, SOAS, offered Sienna a teaching position. With tenure. We value diverse perspectives, the dean said. New business partners emerged. Younger, more progressive, eager to work with them. And their children? Their children were fine. Because they had 3 fathers who picked them up from school together, who showed up to every parent-teacher conference as a united front, who taught them that love was what mattered, not what society said love should look like. The Park family had made a critical error. They'd assumed exposure would destroy the Kangs. Instead, it had made them stronger, more united, more powerful. 2 months after the press conference, the Parks reached out, asking for a meeting. Do-hyun agreed, but on his terms, in his territory. The head of the Park family came to Knightsbridge. Alone, a sign of respect. Or fear. You didn't break, Park Jin-woo said, sitting across from Do-hyun in the study. Your family didn't crumble. I miscalculated. Yes, Do-hyun said simply. You did. I came to apologize. And to propose peace between our families. Peace? Minho laughed from his position by the window. After you tried to destroy us? After you threatened our wife and children? Taejun added, his voice cold. Park bowed his head. I was wrong. I underestimated the strength of your bond. The strength of Mrs. Kang. She's remarkable. She is, Do-hyun agreed. Which is why we will accept your apology. And your peace. But if you ever threaten our family again, there won't be a 3rd chance. Park nodded, understanding the implicit threat. Agreed. After he left, Sienna came into the study. Did you accept his peace? We did, Do-hyun said. For you. For the children. Because you taught us that strength isn't just about violence. Sometimes it's about mercy. She smiled and crossed to him, wrapped her arms around his waist. You're learning, she teased. All three of you. You're a good teacher, Minho said, joining them. Taejun was last, completing their circle. The best teacher. 7 years after that first night. 7 years after Sienna had trembled in the Mayfair penthouse. They threw a party. A massive celebration at their home. Their anniversary. All 4 of them. Together. They invited everyone. Family, friends, business partners. Even some reporters. Let them see who we really are, Sienna had said. Let them see our happiness. The garden was filled with lights. Music. Laughter. Their children ran wild with their cousins. Supervised by Do-hyun's mother, who'd flown in from Seoul. Marcus was there too. Sober, for 6 years now. Working as an accountant in Manchester. I'm sorry, he told Sienna for the 1000th time. For everything. Stop, she interrupted gently. If it weren't for your mistakes, I wouldn't have this. This life. So thank you, truly. He hugged her tight. You're insane. You know that? Completely, she agreed with a laugh. Later, when the guests were dancing and drinking, Sienna slipped away. Found a quiet corner of the garden. Just to breathe. To take it all in. Hiding? Do-hyun's voice came from behind her. Reflecting, she corrected. He joined her. Minho and Taejun appeared moments later. Like they always did. Do you remember that first night? She asked. When you said I'd have all 3 of you. I was terrified, Minho admitted. That you'd say no. That we'd lose you before we'd even had you. I was certain you'd choose Taejun. Taejun said with a smile. He was always the best of us. I was certain I'd won before the competition even started. Do-hyun said. I was an arrogant fool. You were. Sienna agreed. But you learned. You all did. You taught us, Do-hyun said quietly. How to be better. How to share. How to love without possession. Well, mostly without possession, Minho corrected with a grin. We're still pretty possessive. Sienna laughed. I wouldn't have it any other way. She looked at each of them, these 3 men who'd started as strangers. Captors, competitors. And had become her husbands. Her family, her everything. I love you, she said. All 3 of you. Equally. Completely. We know, they said in unison. And then Do-hyun added softly, we love you too. More than we thought possible. More than we knew we could, Minho continued. More than words can say. Taejun finished. They stood together in that garden. The 4 of them. United. And Sienna realized something profound. She'd been brought to them as payment for a debt. A sacrifice. A transaction. But she'd become so much more. She was the glue that held 3 brothers together. The heart of a family. The soul of an empire. She was loved. Cherished. Protected. And she'd never been happier. And that's the extraordinary story of Sienna and the Kang triplets. From a blood-stained envelope in Brixton to a family that defied every rule. This wasn't just about a woman choosing between 3 men. It was about finding the courage to love authentically, even when the world said it was wrong. It was about 3 brothers learning that true strength meant sharing, not conquering. And it was about building something beautiful from something that started as a transaction. Sienna walked into that Mayfair penthouse, thinking she was sacrificing herself. But she walked out having gained everything. 3 men who loved her enough to compete for her heart. And who loved her even more when she chose to keep all 3 of them. That's the power of authentic love. It breaks every rule, defies every expectation, and creates something more beautiful than anyone could imagine. If this story grabbed you by the heart and wouldn't let go, you need to hear this. This channel is overflowing with stories just as addictive, just as unconventional. Tales of love that will make you question everything you thought you knew about relationships. Stories about people who dared to love differently and found happiness in the most unexpected places. Don't let this be the last time your heart races like this. Hit that subscribe button right now. Smash it. Because the next story might be even better than this one. Drop a comment below and tell us what you thought. Which brother would you have chosen? Would you have had the courage to go public like Sienna did? Would you have been brave enough to love 3 men in a world that said you should only love one? Your engagement is everything. It's what keeps these stories alive. What lets us bring you more tales of impossible love? We have so many more stories waiting for you. Stories that will make you laugh and cry and believe in love again. Stories about Korean men and the women who changed their lives. About families that look different but love the same. About people who refuse to live by anyone's rules but their own. Don't walk away now. The next chapter of someone's extraordinary love story is literally 1 click away. Subscribe, comment, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who needs to know that love doesn't have to look like everyone else's love to be real. That sometimes the best families are the ones we build ourselves, regardless of what society says. Thank you for being here. For witnessing Sienna's journey. For believing in love that breaks the rules. We'll see you in the next one, where another impossible love story is waiting to unfold. Because at the end of the day, love is love. No matter how many people it includes. And that's the most beautiful truth of all.